Hi, welcome to my beginner's guitar course. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to play the chords G and C. There are two ways you can play G. You can play it like this, with your second finger on the third fret of the E string, or you can play it like this, with your third finger on the third fret of the E string. So I'm going to show you the first way. So you take your second finger and put it on the third fret of the E string, okay, and you press really hard. You want to make sure that your finger is in the middle of the string, and then you take your first finger and put it on the second fret of the A string underneath that. Okay, so you've got these two notes, and then you play the open D, the open G, and the open B string, and then you take your pinky, your little finger, and you put it on the third fret of the top E string. Okay, so it's a real stretch. If you've not played this shape before, you might struggle a little bit at first to get that stretch. You can also play it this way. You might find this an easier shape. So you've got your third finger on the third fret of the E string, your second finger on the second fret of the A string, and again the open string's there until you get to the top E, where you put your pinky on the third fret of the E string, and that's how to play G. If you want to play it an easy way, but you can only play these four strings, you could just press down on the third fret of the top E string and play the four strings starting on the G, on the D, the G, the B, and the E string there. So you've got, that is an easier way to play G, okay? So when you're first starting to play the guitar, you might find that shape difficult at first. That's absolutely fine. Just keep going back to it to put your fingers on the strings in that position. Okay, the next chord I'd like to show you is C. Again, this is a stretchy chord. It's quite difficult to play when you're just starting out on the guitar. Okay, so you take your third fret for the third finger and put it on the third fret of the A string. Okay, your second finger goes on the second fret of the D string, open G string, and then your first finger goes on the first fret of the B string, and then you play the open E string underneath there. And again, this is a real stretch of a chord because you need to arch your fingers, arch your hand, so that what you might find at first when you're playing it is you might be blocking the G string. That's quite a common thing to do when you're first starting with this chord. And again, pressing really hard on the strings. If you're first starting to play guitar, you will notice that your fingers get a bit sore, but over time they will callus over and they will get harder and it'll become easier. So what I'd like you to do, if you can, practice changing between the G chord and the C chord. Okay? And for your rhythm hand, just get into the habit of strumming down, hitting those strings and letting them ring. Okay? Like I say, you might find it easier to play it like that or play the G chord like that. Quite often I like to play it like this because then that means that I can do things like so that's the position where you got your second finger on the third fret of the E string. But quite often I will play it like this because it's easier to change with this shape of G to the C chord there. There's not much of a difference between the finger placement there. Okay, so that's how to play the chords G and C. And for practicing, just keep changing between the chords so that it becomes more fluent. And over time, the more times you do that, the easier it will get.